On January the 18th, when goalkeeper Ben Elmwick was ill and Hamer was injured, Yohan Thuram started Charlton's trip to Middlesbrough. Thuram made a crucial error, allowing a weak Emmanuel Ledesma shot to bounce over him, and Charlton lost the game 1-0. Ben Elmwick returned and replaced Thuram for a 3-0 win over Oxford and a 1-0 win over Huddersfield Town. After 2 wins and 2 clean sheets, Elmwick was selected for the trip to Doncaster Rovers on Tuesday, January the 28th. At 9:19 p.m. that night, Duchatelet sent the following email. Chris, could you explain why you did not put Yohan Thuram in goal for the last 2 games? Roland. 3 days after the loss to Doncaster, Elmwick was told he was no longer needed and his contract was torn up. As he left for Leyton Orient, 18-year-old Dylan Phillips was now Charlton's only fit backup, leaving Powell with no choice but to play Thuram. Next, Loic Nego and Reza Gurchinejad arrived at the training ground, and Powell was advised that he should play them in an email sent to the Charlton manager on January the 30th at 8:42 a.m. This long email can be seen in full on our website, www.gettingtoknowthenetwork.com. Here's some of it. Dear Chris, before acquiring Charlton Athletic, our scouts did analyse the players and also the playing system. The conclusion was that the average quality of the group was below average. With this knowledge, we transferred quality players from Standard and UPEST. In the future, we will only recruit players of high quality. Our assumption here is that Duchatelet is referring to the arrival of Nego and Gurchinejad, players signed the day before this email was sent. It continues, I asked the scout who has been most involved in this exercise how he would play given the recent injection of quality. Indeed, to put it bluntly, he knows the incoming players much better than you, and he also knows the other players well since he analysed so many games in detail, while you may not have had the time to do so. The next section of the email is a paragraph explaining that his scout would play a flat 4-4-2 in defence mode, which becomes a 4-1-2-1-2 offensively. The flat 4 in defence changes to a diamond in offensive mode. As mentioned, the email is in its entirety on our website. After that, Duchatelet advises Powell on the team his scout would play against Wigan. Obviously, he would put Thuram in the goal, Wood and Morrison as central defenders, Wiggins left-back, and Nego right-back since Solly is injured. The 4 midfielders would be Astrid, Cousins, Stevens and Harriott, and he would prefer Sordell to play with Reza. He thinks Sordell has much better technical quality and would create much more danger if we play football rather than long balls. Is it possible to test the lineup and tactics in the coming 2 days? Here in Belgium, coaches use the rest of the team and youngsters from the under-21 to play opponent in closed training games. They even ask the opponent to play like the real opponent would. Roland. Powell decided to make a point and played a very similar team to that which Duchatelet suggested at Wigan. They lost 2-1.
My first meeting with him and the previous owner, I sat there in the boardroom and thought, I don't think I'll be here too long.
Why is that?
Because straight away he said to me, you need a new goalkeeper.
This is the first meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were going through the squad. I knew that there was a network of clubs that he owned. He's earned his money, and rightly so, in the business that he's done. He's been very successful, no problem with that. But straight away, he was saying, we've seen the players, and you need a new goalkeeper. You need a striker better than Cormorgan, who's one of the best players I've ever managed. You need a new fullback, and I had Chris Solly, one of the best right backs, and Royce Wiggins. And he just said, we've got players that will be better than them. I said, you've got to recognise and appreciate how tough the championship is. And then I had Roland saying to me, they're not good enough. And I'm sitting there thinking...
Have you had that before, when an owner of a club has told you how to run it?
No. Owners are very, very important to clubs. They come in all shapes and sizes, from all different backgrounds, primarily from... They have businesses that they're very successful at, and they either love the club, like the owner at Huddersfield, Dean, or they buy in and they want to do well and they ultimately want to get into the Premier League. Fine, no problem. They want to throw their money at it, and fair enough, they've been successful, they got the money to do it. But Roland straight away said to me, we need these players and that players. I said, well, as long as I've seen them, I know what they're about, and I have the characteristics and the character I feel is right for this club, because it's a bit of a one-off club, a bit special with what they've been through, then fine. But then I'll go to training, I'll get a phone call, oh, there's a goalkeeper downstairs. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't know he was coming in. I had to go down and go, oh, good to see you, great. But I'm thinking, I don't know who you are. So all of a sudden, you have to play him. But then
Why do you have to play him?
Because he wants them to play, because they've come over to play. They've obviously been told, it's never ever the players' fault. I used to say to the staff, it's not their fault. They're playing in Belgium or they're playing in Hungary, and they've been told, go over to England, which they obviously feel is a great opportunity, you're going to play.
Did Roland ever tell you to pick players, or ever tell you to pick a formation, or ever tell you to make substitutions at time?
Not substitutions.
But he told you to pick a certain player?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and a lot
How
of time,
often did it happen?
A lot of time I said no.
But the other time, you said yes?
No, I never ever said yes. I would always choose the team I felt was right for that game. If you get compromised, you cannot do that as a manager. You have to have belief in the players, the 11, the 18 that you choose, and it will work for you sometimes, and other times it won't. But for Roland to say to me after I've played a game and we lost the game, say, why didn't you play him? Why didn't you? I'm saying, well, he's not up to speed, he's not good enough, he's not right for the championship. Now, at the time, it's quite a brave move, but I didn't want to compromise my own principles, because then I'm not manager of the team.
Your situation's becoming untenable here.
Well, absolutely. So I knew straight away.
Over what period of time is this?
I had 2 months, so January came in, I left in March of 2014, and I just knew if this is the way they're going to work, it will not work at this club for sure. Watford have done it, but they've done it in a different way. They really have done it, and they've been smart how they've done it.
Do you think he had a hidden agenda? Do you think he wanted to get rid of you, so he got on your back?
Well, yeah, because...
No, but from day one?
Possibly. Only he could answer that.
And I think, just to remove a myth, because I don't know who created it, but it developed its own steam about Roland picking the team for Chris and Chris not being happy, therefore walking out. That was not the case, I can tell you. What the owner did do, and maybe this did upset Chris, who knows, he did ask, Chris would come back and say, yeah, we've lost again, or whatever. He said, I need replacements. Roland would say, yeah, but what about these guys I've sent over? They're not bad. Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he playing? So, but anybody would question that. If you're picking up the wages and you've sent them over, whether they're good enough or not, you are going to ask. If Chris had been winning all those matches, it would have helped his argument to say, not good enough with me, I'm happy with my existing team. But he was really ringing up saying, I need reinforcements. We got reinforcements, probably not good enough, I accept that. And then Roland, of course, says, you lost again, you didn't pick my reinforcements, what's wrong with them? So it was that sort of questioning which I think, if you're winning, you can be robust in your answer. If you're losing, it becomes difficult. So I'm not saying Chris's life was easy, but Roland was not picking the team. He was questioning afterwards, why didn't we win? Which all of us do.
What was this today?
I'm not in control of...
No, I understand that,
Yeah, but
No, who were the other 20 applicants?
well, one of your was your favourites as well.
Alan Kirbishley, wasn't
So why not take him back?
Yeah, but you cannot expect us to go only with I mean, in no other club.
Katrien,
mate.
just tell us the truth. Please just tell
I
us the
told you
truth.
the truth, but nobody believes me, and so whatever. No,
I'm not accusing you of lying,
No,
but
listen, I will explain you.
how can, first I want to dismiss myself, right? First, how can you employ someone who doesn't have a work permit and announce them to the club and announce them to allow training to happen when they don't have a work permit? That's just crazy. And that today was, I've been following Charlton since I was 3, right? My dad took me when I was 3, I'm 34. 31 years, I've never ever seen anything as disgraceful as that. I'm sorry, I've never seen anything as disgusting as that. It was an absolute farce.
Mate, we all feel the same. We're still working on championship.
No, what are we going to do about it?
Listen, can I tell my can I say my side of the story? Because everybody is assuming that I lied, which I didn't, and everybody is basing it on statements on the website. I will tell you what happened. On last week, before the fighting game, the whole team has been negative. You know, there was no team spirit, so we tried to bump up the team. The boys went on a team building activity. I boosted them because there was also lack of confidence, and that's why I brought a positive message in the value review. Okay. After the game, you see nothing has changed. So I go home and I think, well, what are we going to do? On Sunday with the board, we started discussing what are the problems and what we should do. On Sunday, we made the decision that we would go into this well. Yeah?
I agree with that. After what's come out in a week, for the last couple of days, if he's done what he said, with his attitude towards the players,
can never make
I
comments
totally
like
agree
that.
with that, but what is upset and a lot of supporters
I know the appointment.
is it's not even the appointment, because he moves on. If he's got as good a reputation as he said, we're happy with that. But it's the fact that it's going to be a correct and proper process. It's going to be a long-term process. You've got Paul Jewell who has done it. No, please explain. You've got Paul Jewell who's done it in the Championship, taking teams to the Premier League, knows this league. You've got Curbs who is a legend at this club. And I'm sure there's other people who apply for the job, who know the Championship, and who have moved teams forward. What is going on at our club is an absolute disgrace. That today, none of them players wanted to be there. Not one of them wanted to be there. It was absolutely, we left at half time. I've never left the game at half time, that was embarrassing. Now, what, and I understand that Roland wouldn't take on the club unless he wants to take it forward, because he can earn more out of Charlton being in the Premier League than he can out of Liège being in the Champions League. He will earn more financially. So what is going on with the players he's bringing in? Because none of them players that he's bringing in are good enough. Why are we not bringing players in, and why are we lying to fans?
Who lied to the fans? Tell me.
Was it a long and thorough process that took a day?
At Norwich, they
I hire drivers, I hire van drivers. No, I hire van drivers. No, listen to me. No, listen, sit down. If I hire a van driver, it takes longer than a day. Let alone a football manager, one of the greatest teams in the country. So you're telling me Luzon's more qualified than Paul Jewell for the Charlton job?
That is, I mean, have you experienced working with agents? The most important relationship with them is that you can trust and that you respect. And we felt that we already had somebody that we saw that, but there were other applicants as well. So
who were the other applicants?
But I'm honestly thinking that I will tell you that.
Paul Jewell and
If you go for a job,
They're not going to try and get to relegate, let's be fair.
No, but what's going on?
No,
Were you there today? It was awful.
You're right, but they're doing like fundamental to their life.
But how can
It's
you
a
say
transition,
that?
isn't it?
No, but we want to know what's going on with our football.
Mate, we're the same, we want to know, but at the end of the day, we've got to give it time, haven't we?
but we will try to tell you as much as possible. But you cannot expect if you go and apply for a job and you don't make it, you want the company to tell me that you didn't make it to the job?
Yeah, you're not good enough for us. Yeah, no, you spot on. It's confidentiality.
I know there's I'm a joke. I've been since I've been 6 years. My firm's got hundreds of
Fancy scoring at the Valley in May? Contact the sales team now to book the pitch for your team.
You saw your seat. It's a great seat.
Yes.
But perhaps it's not the best seat in the house, is it?
No.
What initiative have Charlton got in store for their fans this season?
Well, yeah, we value the fans a lot, and obviously they should get the best seats. And so this year we'll be doing something very unique in England. I don't think it's done before. We have a pitch-size sofa where the fans can watch the game live. Yes, yes, yes. Very comfortable.
And here comes the big reveal. If you don't believe me, there is the fan sofa. Fantastic. Katrien, if you can take a seat. And let's have a look at the view from here.
It's magnificent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Better than your seat, you say?
Yes, much better. So we will do a competition actually. So the idea is that that fans in the crowd will film fans in the crowd. There will be a song will be played, and the one who dances the most or is the most expressive will win a seat on the sofa. And I intend to really participate at that one. I know not all those fans represent the majority. It was only 2% of the people that were in the ground that were outside.
Going back to the playing side, when Chris Powell was dismissed, the reasons given were that he was failing to agree with the club's footballing strategy. I think was the one of the reasons that I read. He stated that he was not happy with a situation where players were being sent over and he was being told to play them. And in particular, the goalkeeper, who I think most people accept was perhaps, certainly at that stage in his career, wasn't good enough to be in the side. Are you able to assure us that our current interim manager and those that have come before and those that will presumably follow are not subject to anything of the sort, and are they allowed to pick the side without any interference from abroad or from anywhere else?
No, I think it's a bit. I mean, out of reality. This comment. Obviously, whatever coach that came in was in charge of his team, and is able to pick the players. And especially Mr. Duchatelet really recognizes the work, the most important work, and the way you choose your team for the game on Saturday is based on what a manager sees during the week. Every day they work with the players, and I think we had some examples this week, this season as well. If the players don't perform well during the week on a training, they might end up on the bench, while everybody of the fans and maybe also Mr. Duchatelet would say, why doesn't he start in the first 11? I think there have been enough of examples like that, and I can assure you that that's not the case.
It's things like that which cause people to be unhappy, and it's good that, you know, if that isn't happening, that it's made very clear that it's not happening.
It's for sure not
Okay.
not happening, and I always say to people is to put things into perspective what other people say in the press, because it mostly concerns ex-employees that are dismissed, and so at a certain point in time you need to realize that people might be saying certain things for certain reasons.
Okay, but it's still good that that's clarified for everybody.
But we've had 5 managers in that time.
Yes,
that
but
seems a little bit
nevertheless,
excessive
we
by
improved.
any standards.
Excuse me?
It seems excessive by any standards to go through 5 managers in 2 years.
Yeah, but nevertheless they proved to be the right decision every time.
Have they?
Because
Okay.
we improved always our ranking and our results.
Welcome to the 72 review. Today we're at a very windy valley to check out the Charlton fans who are protesting today. Spell it out for the 2%. It's a campaign they've got today.
Stand up for the 2%. Protest today, second to third minute.
There's been some real grave concerns about the running of the club for a little while now, and in a recent meeting with fans, the CEO suggested that there were 2% of fans that were dissatisfied with the running of the club, and it's basically a campaign to try and show that that's a little bit misguided.
We're not just crying to your fans.
And we can't believe what we're seeing at the moment. How can you piss off your fan base, and particularly your major fan base, which is your elderly people?
They're not interested in our views anymore.
There is no other problem with Charlton apart from what's going on behind the scenes.
It's more than 2%. This 2% business is rubbish.
I don't think people necessarily want the guy out. It's about communicating with the fans, you know, how the team's going to improve, how the club's going to progress, really.
A couple of years ago, we were like a power football club. We had an Englishman well respected in the game. Like Chris Powell is a proper football man with a load of players that you can kind of connect to. You don't feel that now. There's been a real influx of foreign imports that haven't been up to scratch, really, and you don't feel like they're playing for the shirt as much as your Johnny Jacksons of this world.
The youngsters have been sold for years, but now they're going, when they're so young, we're getting no money for them.
To the Valley out today, brand new today, forgetting about the results and thinking about the long-term future of this club.
She says she wants to be a competitive championship side with Premier League ambitions is her little mantra. We see nothing to suggest that that's the case.
My boyfriend set up the campaign. He's 18, I'm 18. We're all young and old are unhappy with it, so yeah, we need to change it.
It's not just about results. I mean, this is off the back of 2 wins in a row. The fan base here has a real history of, you know, shaping the club, really, and it's sad to see them so disregarded.
So in the Valley match about to start, and 2 minutes in, we're going to have the protest for the 2% protest.
actually, didn't it?
Yeah, the process 100%. Really pleased with that. The feedback from those watching the Sky cameras was that there was a picture of Katrien Meire looking fairly sheepish. So at least hopefully the message got across.
I would have liked to have seen a few more people on their feet, but in all, I think it went well.
And they, change the manager every 5 minutes. It's kind of like there's no continuity, and it's just, the fans at the club deserve a lot more.
Do you think they'll really take note of the fans after seeing something like this?
If he's got any sense, he will, because we're the lifeline of the club, aren't we? We're the blood of the club. Without the fans, he's not got a club.
To be honest, when we're winning games at the moment, it still doesn't feel like the same Charlton winning games in the past, and it doesn't even hit me that much when we lose games at the moment because I'm so disillusioned by the whole thing.
Game over at Charlton, but the protest, spell it out for the 2%, actually went really well. The organisers were really happy, fans got behind it. We're in the North Stand back here. Up the bottom they all stood up, at the top they all stood up, and they all chanted because they knew exactly what they wanted. Result didn't go according to plan either, and so there's a lot of things that are going to happen at Charlton's got to change. They want their club back. Fans don't feel happy, they don't feel connected to the club. Owners got to listen to them. We'll see how it goes from there.
And my proposition would be a unique kind of real football kind of fan experience, and see hopefully the next stars of the Premier League, which we will have a play for Charlton in the first team, and then probably sell on to the Premier League. Fans don't see themselves as customers, and so whenever I now get very friendly emails from fans, they say get out of our club. So it's not the shareholders club. I think it's quite funny because they say they pay, obviously the ticketing system is 1/3 of our revenue stream, but they go to their restaurants with their family every week, and they go to the cinema, but if they're not satisfied with the product, will they go and scream to the people in charge of it? No, they don't. But they do it with a football club, and that's very weird because they feel a sense of ownership of a football club, and that's a really difficult balance, is how you try to engage with fans and make them incorporate into some decisions of the club. But I think I mean, in the end, the bill is paid by somebody else, so he should have the final say.
Off the field, real unrest. There were fans' protests before and largely afterwards, as we can see here on this footage on social media. Do you have sympathy for the fans?
I do. Obviously, I was there at the initial takeover, and it was only a matter of time before I moved on. There's been 4 managers since. And what I just don't understand with such a proud club like Charlton is where are they heading? What is the end game for the owner? I mean, he's never said to the fans, he's never really said to the players, I believe. Maybe he has privately, but I really don't understand exactly where they're heading. And obviously now there's unrest with the supporters.
And that, I think, is the question that the fans are asking. Guy Luzon sacked at the end of October, still not properly been replaced. An interim manager is in there, no chief scout, no director of football. If you're a Charlton fan, what are you thinking?
Well, what you would think is you'd look at the setup when they're in the Premier League. It didn't go too well. I was fortunate enough to bring them back up, League One champions. We started to get the club back to exactly where I felt the fans wanted to be. The infrastructure was there. There was plans for a training ground, which I believe are still going ahead, but the fans don't want that. What the fans want is a team that they go and see week in, week out, home and away, trying to progress, trying to actually get to somewhere which, you know, as everyone knows, when you're in the Championship, you want to be in the Premier League. And I just feel they feel there's no direction. Good people, decent people, but they've lost a lot of very key people, not only on the playing staff, but also just the way the club's run. And now the fans are, you know, they're going to vote with their feet. They really will. And it'll only be a matter of time before they boycott games.
As part of these protests today, I think we're just going to see now the fans were chanting your name. I don't know how that makes you feel. You're clearly, just listening to you, very passionate about this club.
It's quite a good timing that I'm hearing that. But, well, I mean, they obviously know it's a club that's been a large part of my life, in my playing career, and also as a coach and a manager.
Would you go back to try and sort this situation out, if they wanted you to?
Possibly.
Would things have to be different?
Well, I would say you cannot walk in having 4 managers in just over 18 months. Nothing's changed, and actually it's deteriorating. You've got to look at the squad, you've got to look at the direction, you've got to have everything in place to have a go to try and get yourself back to the promised land, which, as everyone knows, is the Premier League.
This clip isn't very long, but it's very important. Listen to this. That, my friends, is Charlton Athletic fans outside the Valley tonight after their 1-1 draw, where they came back bravely from having gone behind. They're chanting 2%, you're having a laugh. This, after the Charlton Athletic, I think she's the Chief Executive Officer is her actual title, she said, oh, I know there's some people who are concerned about the stuff that's going on at this great club, but it's only 2% of the supporters. Well, after the game today, there appeared to me to be half the crowd. I would say 50% of the supporters, several thousand Charlton Athletic fans are making their voice heard. It's very unusual in English football. I think we are extraordinarily patient, extraordinarily supine, to use a word, but I think the Charlton fans have had enough. Let's find out what's been going on, what did go on today, and what will be going on. Rick Everett, he's the editor of the Voice of the Valley. He's one of many people who've worked towards this day and who've helped organise what went on. I'd like to say he joins us now on the season ticket. Good evening, Rick.
Good evening to you.
Rick, I know you're busy, so thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. First of all, talk to us about the day's events. What happened today at the Valley?
2 major protests, one before the game, the latest in a series of protests before the game. For the first time today, we encouraged fans to go back after the game. And for an hour after the game, there were a substantial number of people outside the West Stand letting the board and the hospitality guests know exactly what we think about what's going on down there.
Well, that's why I chose that particular chant, because she will not be able to come now with a straight face and say it's just 2% of the Charlton fans who are unhappy.
Well, it's only a very small part of the rubbish that she's talked in the 2 years she's been in the job, I'm afraid. You know, she's had 5 managers in 20 months. She claims that every one of those was the right decision. You know, I think most clubs where you've had 5 managers in 20 months, you think something rather strange was going on.
It's not possible, is it? The five right choices in 20 months.
Well, they haven't all gone to Manchester
Exactly,
to manage Manchester United, have they? Rick, for those who are unfamiliar, and I'm not an expert either, in layman's terms, what's gone on at Charlton in the last few years? What has led you to this place where you feel you need to be in the streets voicing your opinion?
Well, there was a takeover 2 years ago today, I think it was, by a Belgian billionaire He runs a chain of football clubs. He was formerly the owner of Standard Liège, who he sold in the summer, but he runs a number of other clubs across Europe. Tried to set up some kind of a network system, but what that meant for Charlton was bringing substandard Belgian players into the Charlton squad. That led to Chris Powell's departure. We've since then had a succession of mostly Belgian managers. One of them had just managed in Belgium and was actually Israeli. He's filled the club with Belgian staff and Belgian coaches, and a lot of the tactical advice and scouting operation comes from Belgium.
Well, let's be fair, Rick. Belgium are the #1 team in the world, and Spurs are doing very well with a load of Belgians. It's not about the Belgiumness, is it? It's about the quality of the people you're bringing in.
Well, I think you'd have to say there's a lot of good football people in Belgium, but are all the suitable candidates for Charlton likely to come from that very small country?
Seems unlikely to me, Rick.
It does seem unlikely to us as well.
OK, so tonight you had hundreds, if not thousands, outside the ground. I don't know what the official estimate is.
Well, certainly 4 figures.
Thank you very much for putting us right about that. I understand it was orderly and it was good-natured, but they cannot fail to have noticed that the how can I put it, the peasants are at the gates. What would you hope the club would do in response to the growing unrest in the ground?
Well, I think the fans are now pretty clear that this ownership cannot continue. They would have to change direction by 180 degrees from where they are now, and they would have to demonstrate that they're ambitious for the club, because we all think, and some of us have thought for the last 2 years, that their main ambition is to farm players, that they've no real intention of pushing Charlton forward within the pyramid structure, that actually what they want to do is produce young players, buy in foreign young players and sell them on at a profit, and they're not really terribly interested in results in the meantime. Their problem is they're going to be in League One, they're going to lose millions of pounds as a consequence, they're going to lose a big chunk of the support, and what they're doing is just untenable, really.
Is there any sign, Rick, that these players could be farmed out? Are they, because the league position suggests with so many coming into the club, that might not be the case. So I find it difficult to why certain individuals at certain clubs accumulate loads of footballers. I guess they hope that one might be worth 20, 30 million in a few years' time and they own part of him. But I see so many footballers going around the leagues that are not good enough.
We've seen some very good young players come through the ranks of Charlton in recent years. Diego Poyet would be one.
Yeah.
Joe Gomez, who's gone to Liverpool, and now we've got Ademola Lookman, who I think everybody recognises in the game is an outstanding prospect. You know, he's played about 5 games for us so far. We're just hoping that the owner doesn't sell him during the January transfer window. So there are young players, and Charlton have got a good youth set up, but he's got no understanding, I think. He's brought in lots of players on the cheap from across Europe.
Yeah.
Those players are not equipped to play in a 46-game championship season, and that's shown by the number of injuries we've had. So we're ending up with very large numbers of young academy Charlton players, some of them very talented, coming into the team. They don't have the requisite experienced players around them, and they're managed by somebody who's come from a third division Belgian club.
Now having picked you up on the Belgian thing, I'm now going to support you, Rick, by saying the problem is, unless you absolutely have done your homework, the temptation is to believe that the second tier of English football, as the second tier in every other country is, might be a bit of a doddle. The problem is, it's the hardest league in world football. You can't be bringing in any old footballer, any old Johnny, Johan, wherever they're coming from, because they won't thrive in the Championship.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think that's been demonstrated amply by the experience of Charlton over the last 2 years. And what he will now do, and he's done in previous years, is he will bring in British players for the last 4 months of the season. He'll bring in people who are out of contract, people who haven't got a club. Last year we signed 3 players after the January transfer window who were out of contract.
Free agents,
Yeah, and they did a job for us, but it's all about doing it on the cheap. And then even if we stay up, which I have to say at the moment doesn't look very likely, we'll be back to the model in August. We'll have the same old rubbish coming in. And I'm afraid we'll be back having the same conversation next year, which is why he's got to go.
All right. Congratulations, Rick, on at least getting the people into the streets and in an orderly fashion to have their voice heard.
Absolutely.
But in the modern world, where these clubs are not owned by the local pork butchers, you can't boycott their products. What now can you do? Because these people are so remote from our football clubs.
I think they'll find that we can make the club unmanageable for them. You know, there's a lot of people around who've had experience at Charlton, who've worked for Charlton, This is not just a random gang of supporters on the street. We will make, if they continue down the current route, we will make it unmanageable for them. We will force them out.
Well, I'd love to see how you're going to do that, but thank you very much indeed for coming on and explaining the situation to us, and the best of luck with saving a club that's very close to my own heart for a number of reasons. Thank you, Rick.
Good luck, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rick Everett there, the editor, very clear-eyed editor of the Voice of the Valley. Yet another football club sold to owners who may or may not have been, have perfectly good intentions, but have got some kind of moneyball plan to make money out of the vast amount of cash that slops around the English game. And what you're seeing is a club that had been brought back to life, don't forget, by its community of supporters when it had no ground, when their training ground had a chain around it and a padlock, and they bought into it. There's some money to be made there, and they are not doing the right thing. And I hope the Charlton fans can bring them to our senses. And I say thanks to Rick for coming on here, and all those of you on Twitter who responded to my request for a good person to talk to. He was one of the people who brought up, and it shows once again the value in live radio of being in touch with people in the actual moment.
James is a Charlton fan. Now, of course, there have been protests at Charlton. I've been getting a lot of Charlton fans over the last couple of weeks. 1-1 today against Nottingham Forest down at the Valley. James, a very warm welcome to you. Happy New Year.
And to you, Stan. Thanks very much for all the coverage you're giving our position that we're in at the moment.
You're very welcome. What's the latest? Because this is obviously a serious protest that a lot of fans have attended. What's the aims, and have you had any feedback from the football club and the hierarchy at the football club recently?
There's no communication whatsoever from the club. Today's protest, there was more than the 2% that the board are saying are in protest to this. There was thousands upon thousands of Charlton fans screaming that they should basically sell up, go back to Belgium and do what they've got to do in Belgium. Just leave Charlton to be in Charlton, run by people who are interested in the club rather than just for financial gain.
I mean, the question is, Charlton are in a great position because seemingly now there's a real premium on London clubs. You've got a cracking stadium that's already been redeveloped. We've seen under the Alan Kirbishley reign a club that can go into the Premier League and maintain its Premier League status. I guess that there must be people out there that if the Belgian consortium are willing to sell, that you would think there are going to be lots of potential owners for Charlton because the potential of the club is huge.
Stan, they've had opportunities to sit with potential investors. They've turned these invitations down. It's gone beyond the joke, to tell you the truth. Right down to, how can you close a ticket office 3 days a week and turn it into an NHS call centre? We've got an NHS call centre in our ticket office, so we can't buy tickets to get supporters through the doors.
So, all right, just hold on there. Let's get John, who's a Charlton fan. He's been on the protest as well. He's from Exeter. He's been at the protest today, so he's come a long way. John, good evening.
Yeah, hi, Stan.
You've heard James there. There's a lot of you that have turned out, and you think that once this starts to have legs and a bit of momentum, you don't know as supporters where this could end. I guess that you want some either reassurances from the board that they know what they're doing, which doesn't seem to be the case over the last 12 months, 2 or 3 years. Where does this end for you as a Charlton fan? Are you going to continue to protest?
Absolutely, I will, Stan. I will continue to attend protests if they're arranged outside the ground. I think the chief executive is one of the main problems. It's well documented that we've got an absentee owner in Belgium who never attends the games. That's Roland Duchatelet. But the chief executive, Katrien Meire, has got to take a lot of responsibility for what's happening there. Unfortunately, she's simply a puppet. She's just a mouthpiece. But recent pronouncements, the caller that's on the line alluded to potential investment coming into the club. That negotiations there have been handled by the club and Katrien Meire in a totally unprofessional way. That's not proper business-like. They haven't taken the correct steps to at least listen to what these potential investors have to say.
You believe that there are plenty of people there, given a little bit of encouragement, that are more than happy to take Charlton Athletic forward and buy the club. This isn't a club that isn't attracting potential inward investment.
Absolutely. You've mentioned the London location, which of course is absolutely significant. I think the Belgians have made an ill-judged purchase of Charlton at a time when they're going to be coming up against competition potentially from West Ham in the Olympic Stadium in terms of support. And that's the other major point I wanted to make is that Katrien Meire totally misunderstands and does not understand Charlton Athletic supporters. When we call Charlton our club, we're not saying that we own the club. Clearly we don't. We don't own. But she seems to think that the ownership of the club gives the owners absolute entire right to do what they like and to treat the supporters. She actually calls them not supporters but customers.
Dear, oh dear.
And in a recent interview, she in essence attacked the supporters for their what she called weird behaviour in being that dedicated. Now we have a great attachment to the club. Many people over decades, in my case, over 50 years of supporting the club. I think it's an insult to be called a customer with no real interest in the club when I have a deep emotional, as do many thousands of others, deep attachment to the club. She has no understanding of this seemingly whatsoever at all.
John and James, thank you very much. I completely agree with you, and long may the protests at Charlton continue. Let's get Ollie, who's an Charlton fan. We've had 2 Charlton fans on today already that have been to the protest. Great to see them pop up on Call Collymore, because I'm a huge fan of football clubs being owned by fans, and if they're not owned by fans, to at least they feel they can do something to have their say. They are not customers. They are not punters. They are people that have been going way before a lot of these owners come, and they'll be there way after a lot of these owners go. Ollie, good evening and welcome to Call Collymore, pal.
Hello, Stan. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say, really, I mean, the 2 Charlton fans before have really eloquently expressed the situation, so I'm going to find it hard to keep up with them. But I think today is the first time in, God, quite a while that I've been so proud of supporting the club through our supporters and their action today, showing our dissatisfaction about the way the club is run. I mean, people seem to forget, how well run as a club we have been,
I said it about 3 weeks ago. Charlton was the poster boy. I mean, we talk about Crystal Palace now, spent a few quid. We talk about Leicester, Thai owners, spent a few quid. Charlton were the club that went into the Premier League under that, in inverted commas, small club banner, that redeveloped the stadium, that were getting 32. I remember going down there with Villa, and it must have been late 20s, early 30s in terms of the support. A proper noise down there at the Valley, and a club where you could go, this is what other clubs should be copying. So I think there's a lot of people that have got a lot of sympathy. The question I would ask you as a supporter, as a Charlton supporter, do you feel as if you can do nothing? Is that where it's got now to be a Charlton fan? Because, again, as an Aston Villa fan, we've got a Bolton fan coming on and say, I don't feel as if I can do anything. Because there is no direct communication with particularly owners that don't go to games, that they sit in Belgium or the United States. Did you feel impotent before today's protest?
No, Stan, because we know as Charlton fans we have a history of fighting for what we want. We fought through local political channels to get the Valley back. So we know as supporters we can do it. We know we can get what we want. And it may take time. It may take a few months. It may take a few years. But we've already seen recently in the past week that a former chief executive who done wonders for the club in our Premier League years, Peter Varney, has already inquired about potentially investing in the club with a Kuwaiti investment group. So we know that's there. We have plenty of avenues. We have brilliant, young-minded, but also innovative thinking supporters who can make up banners, advertising campaigns. Social media is so important nowadays as well. We have that on our side. So I think it's so important now to not have that mentality, not just for Charlton, but for so many other clubs out there, to have that mentality that, yes, we can do something. It may take a while, it may take months, it may take years, but if we keep on going, if we keep on being vocal, if we keep on using mainstream media as well, which is why I rang, I think now is the time for the national media to start questioning the club. you can't have a club who says we've appointed this guy, regardless of what division he's from, and say he's an interim manager, and then lie to supporters. He's been in charge now for nearly 3 months, and there's been no sign, there's been no indication, there's not even been a statement since Guy Luzon was sacked about the search for a new manager. You know, that's deceiving fans, that's insulting. Even if you call them customers, you can't rely on them to come back if you're lying to them so much. But now is the time for national media. We're an important club in Football League history, in English football history, for the chance we've given to managers like Kirbishley, for our role in tackling racism in football, our role in bringing through brilliant young British players. Now's the time, not only for us as supporters, but for the national media to ask these owners, give us answers, tell us where we're going as a football club, and proper answers as well, because the situation has changed with Charlton. You know, Stand at Liège was sold, and we all thought that we were a network club and we were going to receive players from Liège to help our cause. Similar to Watford, that's how a network club should be run. But Liège have been sold. We were going to be run as a club that were going to play within the financial fair play rules. Those have been softened since QPR's situation changed when they were relegated. And we haven't really been given sort of true, veritable answers about where we're going. We're given sort of fake figures about money spent on players. We've been selling youth players for cheap. For example, Joe Gomez, $3.5 million for him. That's a joke in my book, and I'm sure we'll let Ademola Lookman go very soon for a paltry amount of money as well. Sadly, that is the way we feel, and that shouldn't be the case.
Absolutely.
We were told that we were going to keep young players for as long as possible and maximise their potential. But since, as I presume another commenter has said, Katrien Meire has said at a web summit, and again, God knows why she's there.
I watched it. I mean, Ollie, I'm going to have to quick there because we've got lots of callers. Thank you very much for your call. I watched the Katrina, whatever her name is, web summit. And again, it's corporate speak. It's talking about brands and where we want to pitch the club. It's cobblers is what it is. If it looks like the Emperor's New Clothes, if they come in with an accent from a place and sound and look as if they have no idea about football, you know, there's a lot of parody accounts that kind of, you know, the USA soccer guy, and he talks about, you know, Liverpool Hotspurs have beaten, you know, Arsenal super good. That's the way that they genuinely speak and the way that they feel. They feel they're coming into a franchise system, not one that you can go up and down, and the reckless spending and the reckless culling of youth systems. And again, if you're a Villa fan listening to those Charlton fans, sound familiar?
That's done me that. Go on, Mike.
Hello there. Good evening, gentlemen. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, Mike.
Guys, I just wanted to phone up to tell you, if you don't know already, about what's going on at Charlton at the moment. Obviously, if you look at the tables, we're very, very low down, but we are a complete joke of a club at the moment. We were taken over 2 years ago by a billionaire from Belgium called Roland Duchatelet, and he last came to watch us in October 2014. So he just doesn't come to the matches, and he doesn't really know what's going on. When we first got taken over, I was open-minded as anybody. You know, I was thinking Kevin De Bruyne, Vincent Kompany, Romelu Lukaku, all great Belgian players. And I thought, yeah, we'll have a bit of that. But that is not what has happened at all. We've had complete opposite. It's been absolute dross, and it's just got worse and worse and worse. I don't know if you know, but our CEO, Katrien Meire, is 30 years old. She's got no previous experience of British football. As far as I'm aware, I'm not sure if she's got experience of running a football club. But the decisions that are being made are just shocking, really, really bad. We seem to be letting our best players go on the cheap. We've let sort of key players go in the past, such as Michael Morrison, who we gave away to Birmingham. We let Jan Kermagant go for a very cheap fee to Bournemouth. Dale Stevens, and the list goes on and on. There's just so many bad decisions being made. It's quite staggering, really. And I do think the media should take more attention. I know that the lower clubs are not as high profile as all the Premiership clubs where all the money is and stuff, but it wasn't that long ago. We were a decent, well-run family club. You know, a lot of tradition, and it's just all falling apart. Our current manager, I don't know if you've heard of him, his name is Carol Fry, and he was previously managing a mid-table Belgium, the third division team that I'd never heard of. He's just got no respect. The fans don't respect him. We've never heard. We want a British manager, somebody that you've heard of that's going to galvanise the fans. There's plenty of passion at Charlton. The numbers are not, terrific, but the fans have been pretty loyal, shall we say? Travelling home and away. But this guy's just not up to the job. It's just incompetent. Seriously, absolute incompetence.
It sounds like a real problem, Mike. I'm really pleased that you shared that with us tonight. And it's so sad, isn't it, Rob, when you see a club like Charlton, the Premier League club for so long, club with a fantastic support, who have been down in the depths and fought their way back up again as a club. And you hear some of the horror stories about the way that club's being run at the moment. It's frightening.
There was a protest less, wasn't there?
But the people who pay the price are the poor souls who pay the money every week.
Totally agree.
Who are that loyal, they'll keep going through thick and thin, and they get the thick end of it.
Can you enlighten us on the Mutabani offer, somebody offering to invest in the club?
Yes, we outlined it as well in the communication. Like any other championship club, we get approached by takeover proposals all the time, but the club is not for sale.
Well, you can see why the fans are angry. It's rumoured that they were willing to invest quite a bit of money in the club, and sort of the way things are going at the moment, you can see why the fans are angry that you wouldn't even speak
I think
to
we
them.
just established that the investment in the club the past years, £25 million, has never been bigger, and we feel we're investing in the right kind of things, and the club basically is not for sale.
Does that mean that every investor gets treated the same way that Mr. Varney was treated?
To come to the Varney stuff is if you read the emails that he so kindly published, which were actually private and confidential and should have actually, with our permission, been published, to just clarify this. When he sent us an email, it specifically said, I would like to discuss with you an investment proposal. Specifically, if we're going into the semantics, and if my words are being treated like in Dublin, we can do the same way. So in the communication, it was never clear what his investment proposal was. It was only when it was published in the Sun magazine of the club.
I read it on the website.
Exactly. When the emails were published, and he gave context to the emails that he had a proposal to take over the club. It wasn't clear at that point in time that was it. And all of this to say is that we get approached by people all the time, and there's no matter in meeting with people if the club is not for sale.
But you just said that you weren't aware what the investment proposal was. So to dismiss it as something you're not willing to entertain seems a little bit odd. I mean, wouldn't it have been wise just to find out?
But we initially set up meetings, but due to his unavailability and my unavailability, we postponed, and then there were emails that he wasn't happy with the way things were going, and then we just hold off.
The club communicated a few things during the week coming out of a fans forum, amongst them that Riga, they think, has the knowledge and experience to get the club out of trouble. On Roland Duchatelet, well, he might not go to the games, but he sees them all, he's invested money, so he's not walking away. The fans might not be behind the hierarchy, they are behind the team, and we saw at the end of the game as well, the team very much with the fans. They went to thank them to try and stick together, I guess.
Yeah, well, the club has always been built on that, the relationship between the fans and the team. And they've obviously been very unhappy recently. But if they put in performances like that, Jose knows the league, which is important. I think the people and managers that have been in before, previously, didn't know the league. He knows the league. He's been, even though it was half a season, he knew exactly what they needed to stay up. And they're going to have to do that again.
There's been a number of protests from fans at games against yourself. How have you reacted to that?
Well, I fully understand, of course. They must feel miserable like I do, and they try to say, okay, something has to change in the right way, and I can tell them the message has come true. So we are trying to do our best to correct things, and we will continue to do so. But with regard to the situation with Katrien, I know you know her very well. In the meantime, I can tell the fans she is a fantastic lady. She has a very good heart. If she did hurt somebody, it was certainly not intentionally. She's not that kind of person. And okay, in any case, she did for the best, and she has a very, very, very big heart for the club. She really loves the club, like you do.
Do you think you can rebuild your relationship with those fans?
Well, I don't have quite a big relationship with the fans today because they don't really know me. And in the beginning, when we took over the club, I asked Richard Murray to become the president of the club and to be, in fact, the person who could, with much better knowledge than I, have a dialogue with the fans. However, today, since the situation is extremely critical and we see that there is a problem now in terms of that relationship, I step in to help and to try to solve the problem together with all the fans and everybody with the management. Now, we did do a lot of things already, so for the fans and in dialogue with the fans with regard to the here in the stadium we did improvements and we have discussion groups on many subjects, and we have a constant dialogue. Many people have been working very hard the last few, year or two, to improve that, but not enough yet, and so we have to improve further.
I think that they've got to do a fantastic job to do that. I mean, they've signed a lot of players recently, so they're giving themselves a chance with the squad. But they got. It's not just that they're the bottom of the league. They've got this fan situation as well, where the atmosphere at the Valley isn't what it should be. It's very, very difficult for the players to play under that pressure. And but they need to put some results together very quickly for them to get out of this trouble.
Can they move forward under these owners?
Well, I think that the fans now. I understand they didn't demonstrate today. Yep. Chris has played there. I mean, it's normally a fantastic atmosphere at the Valley, and I think that the fans have got to get back on board and support the club. And if they're going to have these demonstrations, sort it out in the summer. Support the club now.
Well, I made an approach to the club back on the 19th of August now, 2015, about a potential purchase of the club. I think a lot has been made about the words of investment purchase. I wouldn't mind explaining that. The issue now is, particularly with the latest television deal, that the financial power of clubs in the Premier League and those being relegated into the Championship is huge. So any deal has to be structured that there is an investment in the club, if that's the right phraseology, in order to make sure that you're increasing the revenue base of the club, because that's got very important implications for financial fair play. And then there is the purchase. But I think if I've actually written to the owner of the club, which is what I did on the 19th of August, and said that I'm prepared to come over to Brussels to talk to you about this potential investment, I think that I'm not going to do that for £300 billboard. I'm going to do that because I've got a serious investment proposal to discuss with him. So I think some of the things that are being said about, it could have been about, you know, buying a new lamp for the club or a billboard or something like that, is way off the mark. And of course what subsequently happened is I contacted the owner again in January and said, look, the party is still keen, and I think there always will be interest because it's a London-based football club. I think there's one of the things that's coming out, I think there's perhaps a little bit of a misunderstanding about football fans in this country generally. Football fans do own the club. You know, it isn't like going to restaurants or cinemas or anything like that. They have an emotional attachment. It's their club. You know, they don't see themselves as customers, they see themselves as fans. And you cannot break into that emotional attachment. They often say that first game you ever get taken to becomes the club that you actually support. And that's so true. And I think once people feel that's under threat, whether it's at Leeds United or whether it's at Charlton or wherever else, then you have a very difficult job in persuading those fans to get behind the team, because the whole thing becomes a sideshow, and it's disruptive to the club. What you want is, you want a stable club. You know, we go back to having the manager that's there for a period of time. You go back to there being a good feeling around the training ground, that fans are coming there with a smile on their face and thinking about only one thing, which is cheering their team to victory. You start to eat into that, and it all starts to become disruptive and protests and all the like. And it's not good for the club generally. It doesn't help the situation. And that's why this position has got to be resolved sooner rather than later. Well, I don't think they're only protesting just because the investors are around. The answer to your question is yes, the investor has an interest in a London club. And I think I made that clear from the start. Because it's, you know, as I say, business convenience reasons, and because it's not that long ago Charlton were a Premier League club, and I think he's bought into the proposition put to him that there is room for a big club south of the River Thames, and I've been consistent even in the time I was at Charlton. I think that, you know, Charlton can be that club, and I think the fact it has a recent Premier League history means that people that are overseas looking at it regard Charlton as a Premier League club, because that's, you know, that's how they've seen it over the last 2 decades. So there's definitely interest there, probably outside of, you know, the investor that I represent as well. But, you know, I have to accept that at the end of the day, if nobody wants a coffee and just wants to hear a basic outline of what the proposal is, and I stress again that the investment part in the club is important, because that income that comes in from new sponsorship deals and the like is what helps you to deal with the financial fair play rules. And the money that some of these clubs are getting from the Premier League, particularly in parachute money, clubs like Villa that may well come down into this league will have far more firepower than the Charlton are not getting that. So you've got to be creative and think of ways that you can make Charlton competitive again in the Championship. So yes, they're around, yes, they'd be prepared to meet, but I accept that, you know, a meeting is not wanted. Well, that's the frustration in not being able to sit down and have the conversation. You know, I don't think it'd be appropriate to throw figures out here. From the figures we've discussed, I'd like to think that, you know, it would be a good deal for the owner and it would be a good deal for the football club. I'm not gonna get involved in this because I want to buy 2 match day advertising boards around the pitch. That's not what I'm about. You know, I care about the club, and I think it's, as I said to you before, I do believe it's got the potential to be that big club south of the River Thames. But with the deal the way it's going, a Premier League deal that's gone from 5 billion to 8 billion, there is, I don't know whether urgency is the right word, but there is a need to get, you know, to get the club back on track, and joining in that party that's at the very top of the English pyramid. Because the longer this goes on, it's going to be harder and harder for clubs like Charlton and many more in the Championship to compete with the sort of money that's going to be coming down into that league from above. listen, I mean, anybody that cares passionately like that and are doing the things that they're doing, you have to admire, because when fans have watched a game, for example, and they come round the back of the stand and they're prepared to stand there for an hour, I mean, that tells to me that they're genuine and passionate about their football club, and that comes out loud and clear. But at the end of the day, we all have to accept, anybody that owns a football club in this country, whether it's Cellino at Leeds or whether it's Roland Duchatelet at Charlton, if they don't want to sell, they don't want to sell. And that certainly is the message coming out. Obviously, I'd hope that would have changed, but at the current time, it looks as though it's not going to.
A game which could potentially be disrupted in all manner of ways, and first of all it has been by a flurry of black and white beach balls. Well, there have been all kinds of rumours about what may happen around this game here today. A lot for referee Darren Deadman to think about. But a barrage of inflatable black and white balls. They staged, as you may have seen, a mock funeral outside the ground for the soul of the club, as they would put it, and encouraged supporters to wear black and white to create something of a funereal atmosphere. Much of it directed towards that lady, Katrien Meire, the chief executive.
There appears to be a lot of whistles being blown in the valley. Middlesbrough on the attack.
And well, this could well lead to another disruption here, because the referee cannot control the game if people are being confused by rogue whistles of all kinds. Well, we saw it again with Ramirez. He didn't know whether to stop or carry on there. It's a difficult situation for the referee, because when you've got the whistles in the crowd, like you say, you want the players to say play to the whistle, they're hearing the whistle and then they're stopping. So it's just another one to add to the ongoing.
We haven't got long to talk now. Really, you need a couple of hours to talk about what's going on there. I was present at the game against Middlesbrough. A very strange atmosphere. I don't think it's an atmosphere I've seen or been involved in for a long time. I was working for Sky, and to be honest, to the players, they've done very, very well on the backdrop of the protests. Now, whether you like protests or not, the fans feel they need to be heard. They feel as if the club haven't listened to them, and they feel that the owners haven't really done themselves justice with what they're trying to do with the football club. In contrast to maybe the owners at Leicester City, who have embraced the city, embraced the club and the mentality of the area and the football club, and they've embraced it. Charlton, it's a real sad story, because obviously I was manager when we managed to get out of League One. It looks like they're hurtling towards there. They've still got a chance, but it's not looking great. But they win the game last week against a forlorn Middlesbrough team. And then they make the statement in the week, which I don't think any supporter could understand. And it quite clearly shows that there's no synergy between the owners, the higher management, and the football fans. And the fans are the most important ones. You need a team on the grass. You need an 11 that represents your club with pride. And it hasn't happened too often for them this year.
They're saying that the statement said that the actions of the fans on Sunday, that's actually kind of harming the attempts to get Charlton out of trouble. What do you make of that concept?
Well, clearly it doesn't, because it's what happens on the pitch. The 11 players or the 18 players that represent any given team on a Saturday or midweek or whenever the game is, that's the most important thing, because the results and the points won or lost sort of settle people's weeks. And the fans, they live for the Saturday. They live for seeing their team. They accept that their team may lose, but they accept their team losing with guts and with a passion to try and win a game. That hasn't happened too often this year at Charlton, and now it's clearly not harming them. It's harming the football club, because I think the fans are saying, you're harming our football club. We don't see what your ideas are for this club, how you're moving this club forward. And if you are, please tell us, because ultimately they pay the money. I know money comes from TV and sponsorship, but you have a hardcore of fans who watch the games week in, week out, they give their hard-earned money to their football club, and they would like to see something in return. They obviously understand they won't win every game or win every league they're in, but it's just not happening at all.
Can you see what can happen now? I mean, there are suggestions that the club could be sold, that the owner appears in no mood to sell the club. Is there a way forward, or is it going to have to be a case of waiting for the summer for this to sort itself out, or beyond?
I really, really don't know what will happen. And to be honest with you, I'm sure many thousands of Charlton fans would like that question to be answered. The only person who can answer that question is Roland Duchatelet, but he hasn't. And I think it's right for him to say, actually, this is my plan for your football club. I own your football club. You guys and the Belgians have called them customers, which is quite clearly the wrong. And that see, moments like that for me just really underplay and undermine supporters who hand over their season ticket money, who travel through the night to go and watch their team. You know, they're fans. They have an emotional attachment to that club, and they're not in it for the money. They're not always in it for the glamour, because it's their team, and they want answers, and quite clearly they're not getting them.
Roland Duchatelet thinks he's found a clever way. With his metrics and statistics, he believes football's simplistic, such an easy game to play. Yes, he believes he knows it all, and he understands football. And just because he's made his riches out of electronic switches, we should all be in his thrall. Every tackle, every run, every pass becomes a sum. And with his entourage of chances, he's convinced he has the answers, knows his elbow from his bum. Hey Roland, you're not the new Messiah, more like Monty Python's naughty boy, surrounded by puppets, fools and liars. This football club is more than just a toy. then there's silly Uncle Dick. Now his wits are not so quick. While he disses Peter Varney and he smiles at us so smarmy, it's enough to make you sick. He still desperately clings to the hope of one last fling. Our inept president likes to describe our discontent as just a message board thing. But Richard, it really isn't funny. The way I trust in you has been abused. Face it, you'll never get your money. Come, let someone better fill your shoes. Katrien doesn't care. She's a very worst nightmare. With a miscommunication and a false insinuation, she drives us to despair. She has a favourite man, and he drives a laundry van. From Colchester to London, he's a very clever someone with a clever escape plan. Oh, she says that we're all weird, and that we shouldn't interfere. But we'll defeat her with our rugs and flasks and her Disney puppet mask. She's gone, we'll still be here. Dear Katrien, you've overstayed your welcome. You talk in such a condescending way. Collection thinks that sod off back to Belgium. Ha! The Eurostar is right on time today.
Well, it's going to be a very long road for Charlton as a football club, for their supporters, because if you are a supporter of that club, you're not getting any answers for what's happening, what the future holds, and now they're in League One. Been through it before. As you mentioned, I was lucky enough to be the manager at the time. It takes some rebuilding, but they have to rebuild the trust of the fans now. That's the big thing, and I can't see how they're going to do that. There's been talk this week about Paul Elliott maybe fronting a consortium.
Right.
Duchatelet has been there because Jose Riga has said it. Who knows? I mean, he doesn't say anything to anyone.
Well,
so
do you know? What do you
no,
know? I wish
I did. No one knows. All they've seen is a team that has been dismantled. They've seen the spirit of the club lost, and that club, and Chris knows, we were players together at the time. That club is built on that spirit, and it's totally gone. So now, where do they go?
Is there a will from the supporters to build bridges with this ownership?
I don't think so. Of course, I can't speak for them all, but just looking at and speaking to fans and people I know, they just feel it's gone too far. They don't see any hope. They don't see that players are being brought through. They're not seeing a team that actually looks like it's going to be at least a mainstay in the Championship, and then possibly building onto that. They need to get momentum again. But they're getting momentum, all right, but it's the wrong way.
One thing that might help, possibly, is a bit of consistency in terms of managers. Because the turnover, as you can see, is pretty high.
It is. I mean, I obviously had 2 months initially at the first takeover. And then...
You fared quite well in that, by the way.
Yeah. But then a number of managers, you need stability. If you look at someone like Southampton, who went down to League One and made sure they got the momentum, built the club, got themselves back to the Premier League. Leicester City, they done it a takeover, but they kept Nigel Pearson because they recognised that the club, there was synergy between the supporters and the management. They've got up, and now, obviously, they're on the verge of doing something great. Charlton are going completely the other way, and we've seen it with Portsmouth, we've seen it with Blackpool, and now you're seeing it with...
Say goodbye to the
Someone's got a big lawyer sign and removing it to above Katrien's head. Big lawyer, and that's going to be removed very shortly. We've got stewards up there. Lawyer, pointing down to Katrien, and now being made to remove that.
didn't the owners of Charlton come out and say they're not, they're customers, and that's where the whole thing started to snowball out of control. And once you make that move as an owner, I think it's untenable where they're at. And I've said to you in the past, it's not going to change. Whatever league, whatever manager they bring in, whatever recruitment officer they bring in, whether it starts to get better on the pitch or not, I don't think the Charlton supporters will ever forgive these owners for how they've treated them as supporters. And you've said just there, you know, whether it's 23 or 230, went up to Bolton and watched one of the worst games by all accounts that's been in Championship football. They went because Charlton's in their blood, and for it to be described as a customer, I don't think you can repair that relationship. There's a complete and utter split. I don't think there's going to be many season ticket holders. I don't know how many are going to turn up on the day next season, but the fan base is dropping rapidly. I just think it's a guy that's taken over a football club. He has got so much money that it's irrelevant what he loses. It's when he gets bored, Phil, or, you know, at some point it's got to sit in his head that this isn't working, it's failed, it's not going to turn around. It's just how long he wants to carry it on. How stubborn is Roland Duchatelet going to be? Because these fans will never, ever change their opinion of the regime as it sits now. So when you've got to that point, as an owner, why would you carry on? That's the only question I'd ask. Why would you want to carry on? Running a team as he is not going to... I mean, why is he running a team? Why has he bought the football club? I can't get my head round why somebody would invest in a football club and run it the way he is. They've lost Championship status, and then from the outside looking in, without knowing how all the finance works at the football club, doesn't look like they're even interested in putting a side together to get back out of League One.
No.
What's the point in running a football club?
And all too often, I think, Steve, that we've discussed, haven't we, throughout the season, with the way that the campaign has gone for Charlton, and their travails, their difficulties, the lack of clarity from the owners for their beloved supporters. Right. That's something that any set of supporters don't deserve. And, you know, there's so many clubs that have, some of our London clubs especially, that have been really poorly mismanaged, and it's cost them enormously. And exactly like you say, I do think their support will dwindle. Now they're going to be a League One club. And I do think that will affect the budget. And I do think they're not going to have a huge, deep squad to be able to make a significant challenge again to get re-promoted back to the Championship next season. You know, what direction are they going when they were a model? Like, I've seen Swansea here. They've been a model of how you get to the top flight and how you stay in it. Steve, you were a part with Alan Kirbyshire of those tremendous times at Charlton, at that football club. They were almost everybody's second favourite team because of the journey that they come on, returning to the Valley. And they've lost all of those principles and traditions, and it's such a terrible shame. It really is.
Yeah, so who would take the job, though? Who would take the managerial job? Because, as you say, it seems like an almost impossible job.
Well, Phil, have you seen the article in the Times where Chris Powell quotes today? If you was an English, well, no, any manager, forget what nationality you are, any manager reading that, and the snippet that I couldn't believe was when Chris Powell went in with his, this is a target I need a left-sider, we're a bit short on the left side, and the owner said, don't worry, we've got that covered. 4 days later, a left-winger turns up at the training ground, unannounced. They put him in a training session, and Chris Powell says, he's not even good enough for my under-18s, let alone a Championship campaign.
Yeah.
Who would want to manage that? If you read the whole article, and you're sat there and you're trying to progress your career as a manager in this country, who would want to go manage it when an owner sends substandard players to you in place of the targets that you have? And then all the other stories that go with it, Phil, about you need to pick this player, you need to pick that player, he's one we brought in from the range, you know, from across Europe, you have to give him a game. I don't want to play him, he's not good enough. And yet you're forced to play him or you lose your job. Who would want to take that job, Phil? Listen, even a struggling manager that hasn't had a job for a while, I'm not even sure that's a great move for a manager that hasn't had a job for a while, because you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Straight away, and it just goes against you again on your CV. They are in an absolute mess. They haven't even got a chief scout, Phil. How do you get a squad together when you haven't even got a chief scout? You should be nominating your targets now and going for them. They haven't even got a man in place.
It's a disgrace. To be perfectly honest, that a football club, as Bradley was saying, that was the epitome of how to run a football club properly 10 years or so ago, is in the state that it is in now. That it's been allowed to be in the state. And to be honest, I don't think the fans have had enough support from the footballing bodies. Where the Football League in this? Where on earth are the Football League? I mean, we know that they're pathetic, and we know how they let down the Wimbledon. No, we do. We know how they let down the football authorities, the Wimbledon fans. We know how the football authorities love their ivory towers and their suits and their executive tickets for big games. When it comes to big decisions, they shy away from them. We know that, and we know that this happens all the time. Where are they now? Why aren't they supporting the supporters in this one, who are the lifeblood and the heart and soul and the spirit? And the reason why Charlton exists is because of the supporter base. Where are those footballing authorities now? Hiding, cowardly.
Well, I guess if no laws are being broken, what can they effectively do?
But it's a principle, isn't it? It's a principle,
I know,
Steve.
Phil. I know. I'm sat back here as gutted as anybody, and there's people that have supported that club from 50s, 60s, 70s, and they've seen the club locked out of their own ground, and they bounce back from time and time again. But this one, it's not about the devastation of a relegation or anything like that. This is how the club's actually physically being run on a day-to-day basis, and all the generations and the history just seems to have been ignored by this owner. He seems a bit eccentric to me, and he's made lots and lots of money. Good luck to him. But why? I always go back to this, Phil. Why? Why would you buy a football club and do what you're doing to it? I just don't understand it.
Roland might think again about selling the club?
No, as we said in the past, the club is not for sale, and we had several approaches from alleged buyers before, including the one of Mr. Varney. But a proposal like that includes a move away from the valley, and Roland Duchatelet knows how important it is for fans that the Charlton plays at the valley.
The comments are outrageous. Obviously, I wasn't at the press conference, but I had a number of journalists on to me today, and the inference is that by naming me personally, she's attached me to bids which allegedly involve moving away from the valley. In fact, I have had some dialogue with Roland Duchatelet directly. I didn't get past the club not being for sale. To suggest that any of this has been inferred from my direction, that the investor I have has got any interest in moving the club away from the valley, is totally disingenuous. And I have written to Katrien Meire this afternoon and asked her to retract that, because she knows that is not the case, and I'm hoping that's what she'll do.
So to be clear, Peter, the brief dialogue that you have had with Charlton hasn't had an opportunity to really outline what those plans would have been at this stage in the process?
No, I've offered now, I think, on 4 occasions to take the investor under confidentiality for obvious reasons, on at least 4 occasions. The latest, which was roughly 3 to 4 weeks ago, was met with the fact that the club is not for sale. So to suggest there's been any discussions about the club being moved or anything like that, which would be ridiculous in the current position that the club finds itself, the absolute priority is to invest in the squad to get the club back out of League One and back into the Championship, and anything other than that is a complete distraction away. There's no intention now, and there's no intention in the future to move it away from what is a very well-equipped stadium. It was a stadium that housed Premier League football for many years, and the club doesn't need to be moved away. It's got far more issues to deal with than that.
Now, this letter is causing a lot of controversy this morning. It's been sent to Sky Sports News HQ by a Charlton season ticket holder, and it essentially says that if he doesn't stop posting negative comments about the club on social media, he won't be issued tickets this season. Now, of course, Charlton faced relegation last season. They're now in League One, and they faced a lot of controversy. There's been upheaval at the club with a string of different managers over the last few years, and thousands of people have taken to the streets protesting about what they call mismanagement. Now, this letter is doing the rounds on social media. Lots of people accusing the club of bullying or blackmail. I want to read you one particular part. It says, "I need to advise you that your season ticket will be conditional and subject to you signing an agreed behavioural contract, and that will mean you have to refrain from posting derogatory or inflammatory comments about the club." Now, the supporter has told me he attended a meeting at the club earlier on this week. He wasn't made to sign any contract, but he has been told that his behaviour will be monitored. I've spoken to Charlton in the last 10 minutes or so. They say that this is a one-off letter and it applies to the behaviour of that fan at the club last season. But we are expecting more from them later. Do stay tuned. We'll bring you the latest.
Now, any diehard fan would do anything for their club, but would you sign one of these, an agreed behavioural contract? This is the exact letter Charlton sent to one fan after he posted his anger at the club's owner and chief executive. It threatens to withhold his season ticket unless he signs that rather curiously named agreed behavioural contract and guarantees he won't post derogatory or inflammatory comments about the club. Dave Lockwood has been the pitchside announcer here at the Valley for the last 24 seasons until he recently resigned in protest. He knows the fan involved and saw his tweets, which have since been deleted. While they did contain swear words, he says it's nothing more than you'd expect from a passionate but law-abiding fan. In short, nothing inciting hatred or violence.
It was a sledgehammer to crack a Warner. It was bully boy tactics, it felt like. OK, it's only one letter, but for a football club to do that to a fan, what do they think is going to happen? It's gone viral today on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook. Everybody's tweeting it, and it's only, again, shown the club in a bad light.
And would this contract even be binding, given every fan's right to freedom of expression? We asked a partner at a leading law firm. This was his blunt assessment.
I think it's highly unlikely that this contract would stand up in court. It looks like a botched attempt at ensuring compliance from somebody who's saying things that are unwelcome from a club's perspective.
No one from the club was available for comment today. Instead, they released a statement in which they said this was a specific set of circumstances relevant to only one individual. That's why he received the letter, and that's because he was posting abusive and foul messages on social media, the official accounts of Charlton Athletic, as well as being abusive on match days here at the stadium as well. The club says as he apologised, the contract wasn't needed and the season ticket was released. Better together, certainly, but this is yet another example of distrust and discord down at the Valley. Alex Bushell, BBC London News.
I want to talk Charlton, Alan Kirbishley, a club you know very, very well. Very difficult start for Russell Slade there.
Absolutely. I mean, Russell's an experienced manager, especially in the lower leagues, and I was quite infused by him going in there because I think that they needed someone of that sort of stature to try and turn this club around. I read somewhere that the players said it was a normal pre-season for once, you know. So I think that hopefully they're all trying to pull in the same direction, but it's still getting the PR that's coming out. It's like this week with the fan.
On that, the relationship between the club and the fans, what you allude to there, this story where the club have met with a fan to discuss that fan's behaviour, both at the ground and on social media, before saying, yes, we will renew your season ticket. So it's a rocky relationship still. Yeah, of course it is. I think that until that is resolved, I think it's very difficult for the players at the moment to play at the Valley. You know, the atmosphere ain't what it should be. And they've got to come together at some stage, but it looks as if they're miles apart still. What's it going to take for the fans' fury, we all know there is, what's it going to take for that to soften?
For the owner to sell. That's what they want. That's what the majority of the fans seem to want. That they want solution. The only solution, that they will come back. You know, I don't think there was a very big crowd there today, and I think the fans will come back if they see new owner with a different direction.
Us, Bob Peters, head coach of Charlton between May 2014 and January 2015, about Driesen's role in recruitment.
He was the boss. If there was a player we wanted and he said no, he's not good enough, I don't think the player would come. And I think that still is a bit like that. It's not easy to work with people like that as a coach, because I think at that moment Phil Chappell was also in charge, and I think he has a lot of knowledge about the English competition and what's required to play in the Championship. Yeah, I think it was Phil Chappell's frustration as well, that he brought a lot of players and we discussed about a lot of players, but they never came. And that was a big frustration. But okay, at the end, it's the chairman that decides.
I just want to mention what happened at the Valley, because these are extraordinary scenes when supporters take things into their own hands. You know, a march to the ground, the Coventry fans with the Charlton fans, and then to actually go out. This is a proper military operation, this protest. They want their owners out, Charlton, and Coventry are trying to...
And they've come together.
They've come together today, and they've bought these 3,000 rubber pigs and chucked them on the pitch and held up because they feel they've got to do something to bring it to public attention.
Can I just ask one question first? Is that right? Of course you can. Like, it's small enough, it's inside regulations, there's no reason why I can't have it in there.
I'm not going to have a conversation. Can I have the flag, please?
How do I get back into the game then? Because we've got a lot of time. Excuse me, mate, can I ask why you're taking his flag off of him?
Yeah, you can, because we've been asked by the safety officer. Yeah, what do you do?
But it complies with the safety conditions, it's small enough. It's not theft, mate, can I ask?
I've got this as well, mate. Don't worry about that.
Do you want to take my shirt?
I
understand, but it's not a safety issue because it's smaller than the safety regulations. It's not a safety issue, so why does the safety officer mind?
Mate, it's got words that are not allowed to be expressed.
Chief Executive Katrien Meire joins Danny, Dean and myself in studio this morning. Katrien, good morning to you first of all, and thanks for coming in. Many fans say that Duchatelet is clueless and that you're out your depth. Are you?
Good morning and thanks for having me. If I was, I wouldn't still be at the club and I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today, I think.
But Katrien, I was talking to a lot of fans. You saw me at Gillingham. I was talking to you at the weekend. They're saying to me that Duchatelet himself has appointed a series of little-known managers, all of whom have been a disaster. He's an engineer. He's a politician in Belgium as well, isn't he? So he's a very well-respected man, and yet he's made all these appointments that have plummeted Charlton into this mess. The fans say this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
I think I understand the fans' frustrations, in particular with all the managerial appointments. I think when we took over, we appointed, most of the managers that we appointed were managers which had no experience in the English game or were Belgian or either linked with Belgian, and so there are obviously some question marks around that. And we did well, apart from last season, basically, when we got relegated, and we paid a high price for those kind of choices. But I cannot stress enough that we turned the corner this summer. We realized where we went wrong the last couple of seasons, and that's why we appointed Roland Duchatelet as the manager who's well experienced in League One, and this is the way forward for us from now on.
The owner, I think what you're saying, his intention is honourable and actually wants the club to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to stay, Katrien?
Yes.
No matter what. And because he stays, you stay. He's not tempted to sell. I know you have had offers of late. Is he tempted to sell?
No, we haven't had offers, to be clear, but the club is also not for sale. There are always people that would be interested in acquiring a club in London, but so far nothing concrete, and also the club is not for sale, so that's quite simple.
Charlton lost 4,000 season ticket holders in the summer, as we understand it. The largest year-on-year percentage reduction in the history of the club. Why does that surprise you, in spite of all the efforts you're making behind the scenes? And how on earth are you going to get those fans back?
Yes, obviously it's very, it's not ideal situation, and when relegation comes, it's hard to convince the fans to come back. And one of the main things, the strategy that we did from the start is make. One of the key philosophies of the owners make football affordable for everybody. So I think for the last 2 years we had the most affordable season ticket in the entire football league. Our season ticket starts now at £175, which is very good value for League One club, and especially in London. So we want to continue to make football affordable for everybody. We reach out to the local schools, the local community, so that's one strand. And obviously the most important part, and that's probably what you're asking me, is about the retention and increasing the fan base and getting those fans that are lapsed season ticket holders, get them back. And it's a commitment from myself. I'm meeting all the fans groups ahead of home games. I'm inviting them for a Q&A, an open and honest, frank conversation is how we can make things better again. I think one of the mistakes we made is that we haven't utilized the knowledge and passion that fans have for this club, and Charlton is very unique in the sense is next year we're celebrating 25th anniversary back to the Valley, and everybody who's aware of Charlton history knows that fans played a key role in getting the club back to the Valley, and that's why using their knowledge and their passion, we should do it more, and we will continue to meet with them. We have several platforms where we engage. We're developing a new website. They're involved in the new design of that. And yesterday we announced a new kit deal with Hummel. And fans will have the opportunity to design their kit for next season with the nice touch of the 25th anniversary back to the Valley. So
all that sounds great, but is the damage not already done with Duchatelet himself appointing so many poor, mediocre managers, which in a sense has landed you in the position you're in now?
Yeah, but that's the past, and we're here today, and we have to look forward. So,
but I'm trying to get the fans on side with you, and this is why they're so embittered towards him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm determined to make this work, and I invited even the people from Car, the protesters, to meet with me and to see how we can solve this, because a war, if we can refer to this as a war, is solved with talking to each other, and the door is always, they refuse, but the door is always open, and they know that, and I hope at some point they will come around.
How depressed do you get, though, when you see the 3,000 foam pigs being thrown onto the pitch, or the plane that flew over that we saw at the weekend at Gillingham? It must get you down. There was as I understand it, a letter of resignation, a forged letter of resignation, a forged signature of yours, was handed into Company's House. You hadn't resigned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this must get you down. It must depress you enormously.
Well, obviously you had that, and you had fans visiting my parents' house in Belgium, and those, I can distinguish that those were actions by certain individuals that crossed the line, but I understand the fans' protest, the throwing of the pigs and the plane. It's part of their frustration, and I'm a football fan myself. For over 22 years, I've been supporting my team, going to games, and we had promotion, we had relegation, and so I understand. The only unfortunate thing with the pigs, I would say, is that they obviously interrupt the game, and it seems that fans are obviously upset with myself and with the owner, but so they can protest before the game or after the game, but ultimately the only way is that the players can perform on the pitch and to try to avoid those kind of situations. I mean, one of my first decisions when I joined the club is make the space available in the stadium rent-free for the fans to have their museum, and I think a couple of months later the museum was up and running by the fans, you know, and I fully support that.
One or two people on social media are not having this player recruiter, Thomas Driessen. Who is he and what does he do?
Yes, the famous and infamous Mr. Thomas Driessen. No, he's obviously one of the scouts. We have several scouts abroad and also in the UK. And what our scouts do is produce player reports that then go to the chief scout, who then starts recommending players to the manager. And currently we're averaging over 100 reports a month, basically in the UK. So we're getting well prepared for the January transfer window. So currently the system is that we get 3 different scouts watching a player home and away, you know, and when they all get a certain percentage in the marks, I think it's 75%, they get through the second round, and then the chief scout goes and watches them, and then the last round is somebody of the management team, either the manager or his assistant manager, go and watch the player live.
Does this fans backlash, has it caused you many sleepless nights, Katrien?
Yeah, obviously it's...
Sorry, hello. I'm looking to be put onto the Jim White show in regards to Katrien Meire. I'm a Charlton fan.
Yeah, okay. Sadly, mate, we're taking any calls today because Katrien didn't want us to take any on the matter with her here, or now she's gone either. But more than happy to hear what you've got to say and pass it over to the guys.
No, that's fine. I mean, I would like to go on air. I just think it's quite unfair that you allow her to come on and have her say, yet Charlton fans can't respond to her lies.
Okay, well, that's obviously her wishes, so right. I mean, we have to kind of respect them because she's come on and come into the show today, come into the studio. We always have time for Charlton fans. I mean, Jim's shown that by going to the Gillingham game.
This is fine. No worries. Thanks anyway. Bye.
So you heard Katrien's interview yesterday with us here. It was live on TalkSport. What did you think, first of all? Because I wanted to try, Rick, to put the points that many of the Charlton fans were making to me when I popped down to Gillingham. You know, I was down there last weekend. And I wanted to put points to her. I don't know where it went. I hope you learned something out of it. What did you think?
Well, first of all, Jim, I'd like to thank you for coming to Gillingham, because I think that was a bit of a statement of your interest in what's going on at Charlton, and I think a lot of Charlton supporters who saw you there were impressed by that, and the interest that you've taken in what's going on at the Valley.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Thank you.
But I think you ran into the problem that a lot of us have run into with Katrien, is that she doesn't really say very much of substance. And the problem with talking to her, and I understand why people say that there should be dialogue, is that there are no outcomes. You know, when you ask what has Katrien Meire and Roland Duchatelet achieved at Charlton, apart from getting relegated and losing 40% of the season ticket holders, you come down to things like the fan sofa, a house music DJ in one of the lounges. You come down to a sex on the pitch stunt, which was condemned by the Advertising Standards Authority, and you come down to a ridiculous stunt with having the centre pages of the programme printed in red and asking fans to hold them up in a half-empty stadium. The things that she claims the credit for, or she infers that she's responsible for, like the community scheme, the museum, cheap tickets, are all things that have been done by other people or have been part of Charlton for years. So the best you can really say about Katrien's contribution is that she hasn't smashed them up yet.
Rick, don't you think that she's just like the patsy, that she's just the front woman and Duchatelet is just hiding behind her? I felt a little bit sorry for her yesterday because, as you said, he's not fronting up. She's the public sort of face of Charlton. So I felt a little bit sorry for her. And it's no disrespect to Katrien, that I think in football terms, she's out of her depth. She might be. She's a lawyer, I think, isn't she?
She's a lawyer, yes.
She might be brilliant in that
profession.
profession.
Professional experience of working in football, other than 3 months at Standard Liège or associated with Standard Liège before to come to Charlton. She's got no management experience. But the problem that we have as supporters, we all think she's out of her depth. Our experience from talking to her is that she's out of her depth. But the problem is, she is the chief executive. She is the person who he has chosen to put in the firing line.
Yes.
And he won't deal with us directly.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with her. And if she's out of her depth, then I'm afraid that that's a problem that he's created.
What would you want to happen then, Rick? What do you want the future for Charlton Football Club? If you had all the power, what would you put in place?
Well, I mean, we've all got sort of wonderful solutions that we could envisage happening, but they are not capable and have not shown themselves to be capable of running a professional football club in England. So it's hard to see a scenario in which somebody coming in and buying the club could be worse than them.
Rick, it's Bob Mills here, and I'm an Orient fan, and we feel your pain. We're in a very, very similar situation there. But the question that you sort of have to ask, and we ask it about Fabio Becchetti, although the one thing I will say about Becchetti is that he's always there. I bumped into him on train stations at away games. Yeah. So, you know, but what you want to ask them is, without any rancour and without any anger, why are you doing this? What is it that you're doing? What are your aims? Is there any reason at all that you bought this football club? And that seems to be the problem. And I know it's with fans, and it's why fans get frustrated. And I know people get angry and they can't hold their passion in. But the basic question is, look, rationally, why are you here?
I think that's exactly the point. And of course, they give us very strange answers to that. I mean, Katrien Meire is on video saying that it's about giving people the opportunity to watch the players of the future and then sell them to Premier League clubs. They talk a lot about the matchday experience and improving the matchday experience, which is lovely. And we all know that football is more than what goes on the pitch. But without what goes on the pitch, without that focus and drive and ambition to win matches and succeed, it's not very much at all, is it?
Thing is, I remember one thing that I did thought come out quite well is that she assured yourself and the Charlton fans that Russell Slade is in total control of the players that come in.
He picks the team.
Yes, they have a scouting network. They report back to Russell Slade. You've got a manager there who's obviously very experienced in that division. Obviously, Bob knows really well, did a great job for Leyton Orient. So on that side of it, didn't you see there was a bit of light at the end of the tunnel? Or
well, for 6 months last year, from November when Phil Chappell left until June when Steve Head arrived, they had no chief scout. And the only figure that we can identify in their scouting network is this Thomas Dreesen, who's a kid who scouts players off computers. And he was sending instructions to Chris Powell when Chris Powell was manager. He was drafting plans about how training should take place and telling Chris Powell where players should play.
Well, Rick,
that's absurd. So do I think that Russell Slade's better? Yes, I do. But bear in mind that Russell is dealing with a setup which is completely dysfunctional. We've got 7 players on big money who can't play for the first team. We've got 4 of them out on loan because they can't sell them, on subsidised loan. We've got 2 others who are part of the first team squad but are not allowed to feature. That's George Teixeira and Barr. And we've got another player, Roger Johnson, who can't play because the fans simply won't tolerate him on the pitch.
Rick, let me just jump in because I know you'll agree with me. Charlton have had a good crack at the whip in terms of airtime this week. Yeah. I'll let you have the last word, Rick, and you deserve to have the last word. What else are you going to do in terms of protest to get Duchatelet to decide to quit and move on?
We're going to continue to make protests that are effective. And I hear what Katrien says about, not interrupting the match. But the truth is, of course, they'd like protests which they can ignore. But what people need to understand is this is a bit like the Berlin Wall in the 1980s. If you'd have said to the East Germans in the 1980s, if we protest a bit more, will you knock the Berlin Wall down? Of course they would have said it wasn't going to happen. These things suddenly change. So we will carry on doing what we're doing as long as we've got the support of the Charlton fans, because it's not about a few individuals. We have to have mass support and demonstrate that. That's why we protest in the way that we do. We will continue until they're gone.
Okay, Rick, let's hope the team can do it for you this weekend. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rick.
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Roland! Happy birthday to you! Woo! Hey, run it out! We want 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 run it out!
I attempted to get in touch with Roland Duchatelet, the controversial Belgian owner, and he's just texted me back, and I've asked him if it's okay to quote him, and he has said yes. So this is Duchatelet just a couple of minutes ago to me here in London. Duchatelet says this: I'm in Paris currently. Katrien Meire may have told you I have other things to care for. She knows more than I do on the matter that you seek to cover. Regards, Roland. So I said, can I quote you on that, Roland? Yes, you can. And I asked him, Roland, do the protests by the fans not bother you? What message can you give to those fans? And Roland Duchatelet has texted this: these protests have nothing to do with reason. Therefore, whatever we do or say, the core actors within that group will always criticise.
7 managers.
Wow.
7 managers. That's what the problem is. 7 managers since 2011.
And he is calling this the protesters of Charlton.
There's no reason.
Actors.
That's quite explosive.
There's no reason.
So for the first time there that we've heard from Roland Duchatelet, Alan Davis is a Charlton fan who is in Belgium. I don't know. Do we have Alan at the moment, guys? Are we good? Yeah, we do. Alan, I hope you've heard me at this end. What do you think of what we've heard from Duchatelet?
Yes, Jim. Well, good morning, first of all. I'm live from the taxi just in northern France on our way back from Belgium. And it's nice that Roland's deigned to talk to Charlton fans, even indirectly, which is a first. But the fact of the matter is, nobody are actors out here. We've got a mixture of people aged between 19 and 68 on this trip. There's men and there's women. They're all long-standing Charlton fans. I went to my first match in 1961. We are as genuine as they come. And who is the fake here is Duchatelet himself. He sets himself up as an owner of a football club. He's got zero interest in us. He's got zero interest in really answering your questions. He leaves everything to Katrien Meire, and you've experienced yourself. She's plausible when you speak to her face-to-face. But when it comes down to the reality, it doesn't match up with the rhetoric. And that's exactly what you find out. It's exactly what we know. And he really ought to just sell up and go. It's one thing getting rid of Russell Slade. No manager will succeed under this regime because they're toxic. And if he doesn't sell up and go, it's going to get more trouble, more of the same. And it won't be acting, it'll be reality.
So the protests are going to continue, Alan. Did you try to get in front of Mr. Duchatelet on this trip?
We didn't expect to meet him face-to-face, although we were prepared for that, Jim, if we had the opportunity. No, what we wanted to do was to highlight to the things that matter in his world what we think of him. So we targeted his football life, his political life, and his business world. And that's why we went to St Truden, Brussels, and then this morning we were at his company headquarters in Ypres to demonstrate to the people there what we think of him. A lot of the people in St Truden agreed with us, for sure. They wanted us to bring Roland back with us in the taxi so that they didn't have to put up with him any longer. And that kind of sums up. It's not just Charlton fans that are sick of him. It's football people across the world.
I don't think he would have fancied that trip. Darren?
Alan, I'm looking at the list of the managers, and what strikes me most is the length of time that they've been in. Carol Frey, October 2015 to January 2016. Jose Riga, January 2016 to May 2016. None of these guys get more than a few months at a time. And yet, that phrase does stick in my head. Core actors that Duchatelet has described you. Is there a middle ground here? Is there something he is saying you're not getting behind the team? You are using all of your energy to protest against what he's doing. You're obviously, as you've articulated, very unhappy with him. Is there a middle ground? Is there a way that you guys can sit down and maybe, or maybe even just you guys take a back seat and allow the manager and the club to kind of maybe just have a clear run at it? I mean, I know it's been a disaster so far, but something's got to give because you guys are so pitted so ferociously against each other.
Yeah, look, we were in the back seat for the first couple of months of the season. We put a moratorium on our protests. We welcomed Russell Slade. We gave him every opportunity to succeed. We wanted him to succeed. We love our club and we don't want it to be failing. But the fact of the matter is, with the kind of rotten to the core infrastructure that permeates that club, from Duchatelet and Meire through Tony Keane, their chief operating officer, the whole place doesn't work, and it won't work while he's still there. So from my point of view, and from Card's point of view, the position with Duchatelet is irretrievable. They have to go.
Alan, just in those two tweets I've received from Mr. Duchatelet, I'm just picking through the bones of the first one, and he does say, I have other things to care for. So that was in the first one. But it's the second one. These protests have nothing to do with reason. So he thinks you're being unreasonable. Therefore, he says, whatever we do or say, the core actors within that group will always criticise. So he thinks you're being unreasonable, Alan.
Jim, I think the world of football can see what's going on. Us Charlton fans are emotionally involved. We feel badly about what's going on in our club, and of course we can perceive that negatively. But the whole football world, including your own show, is holding Duchatelet up for ridicule. It is patently obvious that they're incapable of running a football club properly. So don't be too surprised when Charlton fans point that out to them.
Alan, it's obvious, looking at this list in front of me, there is no plan whatsoever to getting the club back to where they should be. There's no plan, it's just making it up by the day.
They're reeling from one problem to the other. And I just pity whoever else is going to come in and try and take this shambles of an organisation forward.
Alan, do you not have a degree?
It won't be because of the fans.
Do you not have a degree of sympathy though for Katrien Meire, because it seems she's been just dropped in it by Duchatelet and told to get on with it? I mean, when she was on our show, she even said that Russell Slade, he was going to be around for a little while yet, and that he was a man very much to get the players doing a job for him. This is what she said. So, Alan, it's not coming together. You seem to be getting further and further away from the club as a result. I hope you're not falling out of love with the club that you support. So what now? Presumably the protests will go on. I mean, who do you want in charge?
Well, the only view we have on whoever the new manager or head coach is going to be is that we pity the poor soul, because whatever they have to put up with, it just makes it untenable for them to succeed. What next from our point of view? We'll get behind the team as much as we can. We love our club. That will never change. But we're going to fight the regime. We're going to make it too difficult for them to stick around. Now, the fact of the matter is that Duchatelet says that we only represent 1.5% of his business interests. I don't think we even get 1.5% of his respect and attention as an organisation. That's why it fouls. Katrien Meire is not experienced in football, although she's got some scars now, but she's not really managed anything. She's a lawyer. She's been catapulted in here. She's not equipped to do the job. The whole place is just reeling from one crisis to another.
Alan,
she's
do you know
not
what?
capable of doing anything more.
Alan, do you know what I thought had happened? Because I was sat here when she came in. I thought they'd employed Russell Slade as an advisor. Right, what do we need to do to get Charlton back to... And it's a reasonable amount to ask. Give us a plan, Russell. We obviously don't understand football like you, and at this level, so give us the plan. So Russell, I guarantee you, would have sat there and said, right, what we need to do, we need to get the playing budget to there, we need to get these players out, we need to get these players in, you need to bear with me when we're losing, when we're trying to get things sorted, we need to get into the youth team and the under-18 team and get some players coming through there as well, so we don't have to go out and buy players and get that going. And he would have put a plan in place. But they've probably all done it. All these managers would have done it. But the minute you lose a couple of games, you're gone.
You're gone.
And you know what's
They
quite
don't
interesting?
listen. They're not
Just on
listening.
the back of that, Jim, very quickly, if you look at Chris Powell, they started with January to March, January to 2011 to March 2014. After that, it's a succession of managers with no real track record in English football, because they know that most English managers wouldn't go anywhere near the place. They were lucky to get Russell Slade, and they got rid of him after about 4 or 5 months.
Alan,
it's ridiculous.
the boys are just...
Charlton with a win after sacking Russell Slade. But Alan, less than 6 months in the job for Russell Slade, you've got to feel he was a bit unlucky.
I think the last time I came on the show, I was saying that I was quite infused that, you know, Charlton had gone for a British manager, someone that knew the league and would know the players and understand the club. And, you know, 21 games, is it? And now he's gone. And, you know, we often talk about perhaps how volatile a manager's life is, but especially at the Valley at the moment, you know, they're not lasting too long.
So why'd you do it? I feel on that subject, I feel for the Charlton supporters. That is a really good club, very loyal fan base. Have always, since you were there, Al, you turned that place round and got it going again, didn't you, when it nearly went bust? And to see it going back that way now, I don't know what the owner's doing, and who would even think of going there to manage that club? If you're out of work, you vote for that chance. But for the Charlton supporters, it's horrendous.
They'll be the 8th manager since 2014. Is it getting worse for managers, do you think? Are we seeing more clubs just going for change's sake?
Well, I think that, you know, as owners or a chairman, you've got to sit down and decide what sort of manager you want. Not who's available and who's out there and perhaps who's just been sacked. What sort of manager do you want? And I'm looking at Charlton at the moment thinking that, you know, that it's been such turmoil there for the last 2 or 3 years. They need something to settle them down, and I thought Russell Slade might have been the one, and perhaps he would have been if he'd have been given a bit of time. But apparently, you know, if you lose 3 or 4 games over there at the moment, you're in big bother.